everybody. I'm Erin Potter. I'm the FLTC trail specialist. So I'm going to be doing kind of this part two of Backpacking 101. If you didn't watch the first one, that's okay. We're going to be going over a lot of different gear. I'm going to be showing you some of the gear that I have, some tips, and also I'm going to be throwing in some safety while you are out on the trail, which can be good for just hiking, but also if you are planning your backpacking adventure. So just a little bit about how today's going to go. This is recorded. We hope to get it on our YouTube channel for you all if you wanted to go back to it and look at any of the gear again, or if you have somebody who wanted to check it out, they can check it out afterward. If you have any questions throughout, feel free to interrupt or you can put it in the chat. Kane is going to be monitoring the chat for me, so we can get to those. And I will definitely leave some time at the end if you wanted to chat about any of the gear options. If you have any questions, we can definitely go over some things at the end. All right, so a little bit just about me and my backpacking style. I am a peak bagger, so I like to collect mountains. So I'm working on the Adirondack 46. I have the Catskill 35. So my backpacking style is I like to hike in, set up like a base camp, and then I'll spend a couple days kind of getting the peaks that are around there. Other styles are to just kind of do through hikes, which it is definitely in my blood to do a very long through hike. My dream is to do the Appalachian Trail for sure, but the other long trails as well. So I'm very obsessed with long distance hiking. I read pretty much every memoir there is out there about them. So I gained a lot of information on backpacking from reading a lot. Okay, so I'm going to kind of sprinkle in some of the safety things as I'm talking about the different gear, but I wanted to ask you, and you can put this in the chat, you can shout it out. What do you think are the most common hiking related injuries? If anybody wants to shout it out or pop it in the chat. Blisters, heck yeah. Oh yeah, I'll definitely talk about what I use for blisters. Rolled ankles, sprains, cuts. Yep. Yeah, so a lot of it is a lot of sprained ankles and twisted ankles. The blisters, I can attest to that one. But also there's a lot of heat related injuries too, or illnesses. So I'll be talking a little bit about that as well. So that kind of goes into the gear and making sure that you're prepared and safe on the trail. So just some overview of some safety tips. I would really recommend if you're going to be out and about hiking, not even backpacking, just hiking in general, to at least take a regular first aid CPR class. You never know when you're going to need it. And so having that knowledge is only going to help you. I would really recommend a wilderness first aid class. They're actually really fun to take. You go over a lot of different scenarios, things that you probably will never encounter, but it's really interactive, at least the one that I did. So that's really good if you do plan on spending quite a bit of time outdoors. The only thing that I've ever had to do in a wilderness setting is to wrap a dog's paws in gauze because they were getting a little raw from the rocks. So nothing too major, but I do have this knowledge. I do want to keep up with my training on that just in case something were to happen. So I'm going to be going over options for first aid kits, kind of what to expect and what you should have if you're going to be spending quite a bit of time outdoors. Another big safety tip for any time really is just listen to your body or listen to your partner and what they need as well. If you are out on a certain day and you're just not feeling it, like it's better to not push yourself to a point of injury or illness and just kind of call it. And sometimes your ego takes a hit with that, but it's better than actually getting into a serious situation. So definitely listening to your body is a pretty big safety tip. And to kind of go along with that is don't be afraid to turn back. There have definitely been times where I am, a quarter mile to the summit of the mountain, and I just felt like it was not a safe situation, and I decided to turn back. And and that's okay. I went back a different day and I got it. So, you're gonna have days like that, and just knowing that that is okay. You can definitely avoid being in a worse situation just by kind of listening. And a big safety thing too is just preparing. A lot of the prep work, Kane talked a lot of prep work, that can really lead to putting you in a safer situation. So making sure that you do your research, know what the conditions are going to be, and that goes for the weather, but also what the trail is going to be like. So if you're planning a long backpacking trip, you want to make sure that you know things like the elevation gain. You want to know how long it is. You want to know where you can refill your water. So definitely doing your research and preparing is a huge, huge safety tip. Another good thing to do is leaving your plan with somebody. That way, if you're expected back at a certain day and time, and you don't make that day and time, then you have somebody looking out for you. And if you do happen to get lost or something, then you have somebody who can send rangers after you. And also leaving it like a bailout plan. Like whenever I do one of my longer treks, I have options for. I usually plan a more ambitious trek, but then I have options for, like, if I'm just not feeling it, this is going to be my plan B. I'm gonna bail out at this point. So leaving that with somebody too is really good. And then practice. So a lot of the gear that I'm going to be talking about, it's really good to get out there with the gear and go on some of the shorter hikes, as Keen mentioned in our first one. If you were on that, you want to like do a test run of the gear, make sure that it is suitable for you, that you like it, that it's comfortable. That way, you're not putting yourself in a situation where you're gonna be uncomfortable and maybe even unsafe. So definitely with things like footwear and what kind of pack you have. So we'll go over some of that. All right, so choosing your gear that you're going to be packing is going to be based on your route that you're taking and also the conditions. So knowing what your plan is, if you're going to be out for one night, if you're going to be out for several nights. A lot of times when I do day hikes, I like to plan for the unexpected night out. So I'm going to just briefly go over what the 10 essentials are. And that's just in case something were to happen, then you are set if you do have to spend that unexpected night out. Some things to consider that do kind of fall into safety are what the temperature is going to be. So you do want to know your daytime temperature as you're hiking in the day, but if you do happen to be stuck at night, you want to know what those temperatures are going to be at nighttime. Knowing what your likelihood is of rain or any other type of weather that might put you at risk. Knowing what your water needs are and what your where the water can be found along the trail if you can refill, and then I'll talk about how to safely refill and what that risk of contaminated water would be. Also planning your food, and this gets kind of tricky, and it might seem a little overwhelming at first of how much to plan, but once you get out there more, you start to learn what your body needs, then you can really set a good plan for how much food that you would need. And then you want to know what the trail is going to be like I mentioned, how rugged it's going to be, if there's going to be any snow or ice or anything like that. And then your footwear, we're going to talk about here in a second. So this is just kind of some basic packing checklist for backpacking. You want to make sure you have good clothing, dress for the weather. If it's going to be colder, dressing in layers. So I have a little graphic for that. You want to have good footwear and foot care because of those blisters, right? You want to know what you're doing for your hydration system. There's plenty of options. I'll go over some of those. So if you are out backpacking, spending the night, you're going to have a sleep system. There are a lot of options for that as well. Cooking and eating, I have some examples. I'm going to show you what I use when I go out. Sanitation, using the bathroom. You want to make sure that you have proper stuff for that, making sure that you're leaving no trace. First aid kit, and then some smaller essentials and some other things to consider. So I'm going to go over all of these. All right, so here is just an infographic showing the 10 essentials. I have seen some variation of the 10 essentials actually, but this is generally what you will see. And these are things that are going to make sure that you are prepared in case there is an emergency, in case you do have to spend that unexpected night out. So you want to make sure that you have some kind of shelter, which actually isn't on this list, but that's usually one that is on a 10 essential list. So some kind of shelter. I have these little kind of emergency blanket type thing that if it did drop down to get pretty cold, I could just kind of wrap up in that just in case. You want to make sure that you have a map and compass if you're going to be out someplace pretty remote, know how to use them too. Here, you guys can see that this is the emergency blanket, so it's real small, real little thing, but you know, if I get in a situation where I'm at risk for hypothermia, this little tiny thing doesn't weigh that much. This could save my life. Having a light system. So I have headlamp. This one is rechargeable. And usually what I do is I will bring a little tiny battery pack with me too, make sure that's fully charged. So some other things to consider with lights and anything that's battery related. You don't really want to rely on cell phones, especially if temperatures are going to be dropping. Then that's going to kind of drain your battery. Having anything that does have battery and having extra batteries is a good idea. But they do also make a lot of rechargeable packs that are solar powered. I've usually had issues with those. They'll work for a while, but then all of a sudden they'll just stop charging up again. Maybe you guys have had different experiences with that, but those do exist. Other things on here, we will go over here in a few slides. Sun protection. Another one of the major injuries, actually, like one of the top 10 hiking injuries is sunburn or sun related. So it's real easy. Just have like little tiny, like one of those travel tubes of sunscreen. Just keep that in, or some kind of hat. All right, so let's talk about footwear. And I wanted to bring this up. I know you guys are probably all hikers already, but it might be a little bit different for backpacking. There are different camps of people for what to actually wear while backpacking. So I put some general information on here for you. There's, you know, you probably know a lot of this already being hikers. So the fit really is everything. You want to make sure that you're kind of breaking it in if it is the kind of material that does need to be broken in. Sometimes you might need to size up a little bit, especially if you're going to be backpacking like long distances. Your feet are going to swell. I actually have my feet are actually like two different sizes, or like half a size different. So I know that one of my feet, my heel, gets a blister every time. So I'm going to show about blister care in a second, but I get this roll of moleskin and I just keep scissors in there and I can just cut that up and I just preemptively put that on under my socks because I know that I'm going to get a blister if I don't wear that. So those are some things to consider with footwear. So the different camps that I'm talking about, I'll come back to this slide here. So there are different styles of boot. So there are like hardy backpacking boots, and they usually are higher topped, usually heavier, and they don't really flex much. They're usually really waterproof, but that means they're not super breathable. But they do provide a lot of support, especially if you're holding a lot of weight. So some people really, really like these. I do find that some styles can, I don't know, they feel a little weird on my feet, like very like bottom heavy. But there are different styles even within that particular style. There are light hikers which are kind of like a mid or a low top. They're a little bit lighter. I have mine here that these are my old ones, so they're falling apart a little bit. So this is kind of a higher to mid top, but these are pretty light. Like I could run in these. They do provide enough support for me. I don't have great knees. I have early arthritis in both knees, fun fact. Um, but I feel like these provide enough support for me that I can trek for quite a while each day, and they do all right. These are pretty waterproof, pretty breathable too, actually. For a while, I usually wear these out. I usually have to get a new pair every year. Um, but these are a good option for me. These are Solomon's. I really like the Solomon brand. I feel like it's a really good like lighter option. But now in the backpacking community, a lot of people are switching over to just wearing a very light trail runner shoe. So these are very low, a lot of mesh, very, very breathable. So maybe your feet will dry out faster, but they won't necessarily be waterproof. But they are very light and they have a very flexible sole. They're not super stable, so if you do need that extra knee and back support, that might not be the best option. But I do know a lot of people in the backpacking community are switching to using trail runners. So just some little nuggets for you on that. So just kind of hopping back here. So blisters are definitely a big issue, especially if you're going to be trekking for several days. Your feet are going to get hot, they're going to get wet. There's going to be a lot of friction, so there's going to be a lot of foot problems. So there are some options. You can have synthetic liners within your sock. You can have thicker socks to kind of fill in the shoe and make it so there's not so much friction in there. Or you can have just the liner alone. So kind of like test out what seems to work for you. But I swear by using the moleskin, anytime that I have a hot spot, I just slap that right on there and it's okay. It works. Um, I'm gonna say this now and I'll mention it again for thanks, Melody. I'll mention it again for the clothing is cotton. So cotton takes a really long time to dry out. So we in the hiking community try to avoid. You've probably heard of the saying "cotton kills" because it does take a long time to dry out, and if it's cold, that's not so great. Um, so this picture is actually from the Darn Tough sock company. I love Darn Tough socks. I have several pairs. I don't wear wool, which I know a lot of hikers wear wool. Great material. I just don't, for personal reasons, don't wear it. But they have Cool Max synthetic, which I swear by Darn Tough socks. And I'm not getting paid. I'm not a paid sponsor. All right, just a little bit more about blisters. So I put on here the moleskin or some kind of tape. They do have like blister kits. I feel like those could get expensive if you are out hiking a lot. But on Amazon, I have this huge roll that I've had for 2 years and I haven't run out yet. Trim it to whatever size you need, and I feel like that's a pretty cost-effective way to get your blister care. So yeah, if you have new boots, you want to make sure that you're wearing them, kind of breaking them in uh, before you go on one of these big trips. So that's kind of key to making sure that you know that you have the proper footwear. All right. So on that note, we'll talk briefly here about first aid kits. There are a lot of options. There are these like prepackaged ones you might have seen in stores, like the Happy Hiker one here shown. So these, I feel like they tend to have a lot of basic stuff, like just Band-Aids and things for blisters and bites and stings, which that's great. They're really small, they're really compact. So if you don't if you feel confident that you're not going to get severely injured, that might be good just to handle some minor things. After going through the wilderness first aid class, I have kind of built my own first aid kit to include things that I think are things that are going to make a very serious situation better and more easier to deal with out in the field. So that'll be, well, they told us that you want to make sure that you have something to help with breathing if you come across somebody who is having issues with breathing. So like they make these little keychains. I don't have one on me right now, but they make these little keychains with the masks for doing mouth to mouth. So I keep one of those on me usually all the time. But a big thing that I like to have with me is something to stop severe bleeding. If you happen to take a fall and you hit something just right and you're having severe bleeding like that, that could be the end of it. So if you have something in your pack, then that's always really great. So I kind of keep just like a little roll of some kind of gauze or something just to slap on there. One of the big things that we did in our wilderness first aid class was we learned how to emphasize. Sorry, can't speak today. So we would take things that we have and kind of use that to be able to stop severe bleeding. So taking a shirt and just kind of applying pressure, things like that. I do oftentimes, unless I'm really, really trying to save weight, I keep what's called a SAM splint or C split, which is this foam thing here. So if I were to roll an ankle or do something to my arm or even, around my neck, this folds out and you can create a splint out of it. But this is one of the other things that we found material. So my group, we used the brim of a hat and we made a splint out of that. So it's really cool to go through that training and be able to see how you can use these other things to be able to perform first aid and not have to bring all, this huge trauma kit every time you go on a trek. So I do recommend bringing pain meds. If you are a hiker, you might have heard of vitamin I, ibuprofen. If you're going to be out for a couple days, you will feel sore. So just having some pain meds is always great to have. Some other things that are a little first aid related, I do always keep a pair of tweezers. Very lightweight. I just keep it in one of the front little small pockets of my bag. I always keep tweezers for those nasty ticks. So that's always there. And then I do always have like these little tiny scissors, or I'll bring some kind of pocket knife or something. The pocket knife I have is kind of bulky. It probably weighs a pound itself. So I like to bring these little scissors. They're pretty lightweight. Just another safety thing is lightning. Probably don't have to tell you guys this, but there's no safe place outside when there is lightning. So just a little bit of lightning safety. If you do happen to find yourself out on the trail and there is no shelter, one of the best things you can do is stay away from any tall isolated trees, any tall objects that are going to potentially attract that lightning. But then you want to crouch down and try to crouch on the balls of your feet to have as little bit of your body touching the ground as possible so that you're not really a target. So I just wanted to throw that in there because that is another one of those big, one of the top 10 hiking related injuries. Okay, so for clothing, making sure that you are aware what the temperature is going to be like. So if it is going to be cold, it's best to dress in layers. That way you can, take things off, put things on. And then also having your moisture management. If you're gonna be doing strenuous hiking, you're gonna be sweating. You want to make sure that you have something that's gonna be able to wick that moisture away. So those are some things to keep in mind. For backpacking, I feel like a lot of people overpack clothing. So that kind of comes with experience and doing it more and knowing how much you would need. I usually don't pack a whole lot. I usually pack like an extra shirt, maybe an extra pair of pants, but just in case like one set of clothes gets wet, like completely wet, I'll have one full extra change of clothes. If you are out for several days, yeah, you'll probably stink, but hey, that's okay. Socks are definitely what I bring extra of, just because wet feet can cause so many issues. So here's a little infographic for the layering system. If you are going to be out when it is pretty cold, having your base layer, something that's going to wick that sweat away from your body, keep you dry and warm, having a mid layer, and then having that windproof, waterproof outer layer. But if you're going out backpacking in the summer, not a huge issue, but you want to keep in mind what the temperatures are going to be if you are out later in the day and into the nighttime. So some things to keep in mind there. For hydration, so this obviously is really important. Dehydration is not so much fun. So this is a big thing to think about as you're preparing for backpacking. You want to keep in mind how much water weighs. I think it's 2.2 pounds per liter. So that can get pretty heavy. So you really want to plan ahead, know how much you're going to need your for your trip. We talked about last time what the criteria is for how much water you need. So the one that I had found recently was 1 liter for every 2 hours, but that's like more strenuous. So kind of knowing your body and what you need to stay hydrated. But also, you want to make sure that you are knowing where you can refill that water. And then I'll show you some of the things that you can do to purify that water as well. So you want to know if you're in a place where you can drink straight from the source. Around here, probably not. Usually fast flowing streams and springs may be clean and safe to drink, but I don't risk it. So, I mean, there was one time I drank out of a spring and I was okay, but generally I don't want to deal with that. A lot of our lakes, ponds, rivers, they are going to definitely have some kind of impact from animals and people upstream. So, definitely want to kind of treat that water to kill anything that might be in it. So there's a lot of options nowadays. So traditional method is just to boil the water. If you are, uh, taking your time as you're backpacking, not a big deal. But if you have like some goal to get so many miles in a day, it might not be super plausible to sit there and boil all of your water for the day, and wait for it to cool down and then put it wherever you're going to store it. But there are a lot of different filters nowadays. There's the Life Straw. There's all these different things. There's some pictured here. There's a lot of these like pump and squeeze filtration systems. I've used some of those. There are chemical tablets or little droplets that you could put right into it, and that'll kill anything. And there's also a SteriPen, which is a UV light that will kill anything. So many options, different prices for these as well. So definitely check that out if you are interested in purifying your water. So how you're going to carry your water. So the hydration bladders are great for like day hikes, I think. I definitely use one for day hiking. But if you're backpacking, sometimes it's not the best to have a whole huge or not have a whole huge bladder as your only source. And the main reason I say that is because you're going to have this huge pack on you, and every time you drink, you don't want to have to, you don't want to have to, take that off and adjust things. And so if your straw is readily available, that's great. Otherwise, you could keep one of these water bottles right at the side pocket. And some of the bottles can be very, very lightweight. The Nalgene bottles, they can be a little hefty. A lot of people just use straight like plastic water bottles you get from the gas station and just refill those. Those are the lightest weight you can get. But they do have a lot of cool options. We have so many reusable bottles nowadays. There's even these like little collapsible bottles, so those are pretty cool too. So kind of knowing what you need. One thing I will say about the hydration bladders is if you are out and it's going to get really cold, below freezing, those do ice up and get a little slushy. So I don't, you can't really use those in the winter. But you probably know that as hikers. So next we will talk about human waste because we want to leave no trace. And if you are out for an overnight or several days, you're gonna have to know what to do with your stuff. So for peeing, guys, you probably don't have an issue. But for women, there are actually a lot of products out there. Um, I've seen people just like have a bandana and then after you wipe you can rinse it in a stream and hang it on the outside of your pack, let it dry. But they do sell these really nice, fancy looking pee rags as pictured here. Um, there are also pee funnels. There's a whole bunch of products that exist nowadays. So I would suggest though for backpacking, you want to have like your bathroom kit. So you want to have a Ziploc bag, and then you want to have an extra Ziploc bag for anything that you're packing out. So you don't want to just leave. It's everybody's pet peeve to just see toilet paper everywhere. So you either want to pack that out or you're gonna have to bury it. So if you're going poop, you're gonna have to dig your cat hole. So that's 6 inches deep. You're gonna put your waste in there. You can put your toilet paper in there. Make sure that's all covered up. Otherwise, um, you're gonna have to carry your stuff out. So having something to do that and not have it smell. So this can get a little tricky, but with practice, not so bad. So the one tool that you want to have for digging that cat hole is a little trowel. They do have a couple different styles. You can find those in any store that sells camping stuff. So the one pictured here on the bottom in the bag there is a little metal one. They have these like bright orange plastic ones as well. Yeah, and then also I just keep kind of attached to my bag here. I just have a little thing of hand sanitizer. So that's always good to have just in general too. All right, so let's talk a little bit about our sleep system. So since this is backpacking, you are going to be out for at least one night, probably multiple. So there are a lot of things to consider with your sleep system. So you want to know what you're sleeping in, as far as shelter, so tent or something of the like. Also, what your sleeping bag is, and then if you want to have a sleeping pad, and what kind. So a lot of this can get pretty overwhelming, but you want to test things out and see what you need and what you like. So things to consider for this are definitely what the temperatures are going to be. So the sleeping bags have ratings for how low the temperature gets, but there's also quilts. There's other options other than sleeping bags too, but definitely watch what the temperatures are going to be and plan for that. The other thing to consider, since you are carrying a huge backpack, is the weight. So you can have this huge sleeping bag and be super warm, but they also have really super light sleeping bags as well. So there's a lot of different options. Usually the really ultra light gear nowadays is more expensive. So at the end of this presentation, I do have some tips for how to save some money. Here pictured on the bottom, I have some options of different sleeping pads. Some people are totally fine sleeping right on the ground. So, sometimes I'm okay with it. Sometimes I need a little something. But there are definitely options there. So I'll chat about that here in a second. So as far as a tent, you want to keep in mind what the weather's going to be like. So do you need something that is going to have protection from severe wind and cold? Are you going to be out in the winter essentially? You're going to want to get a 4-season tent. These tend to be heavier and more expensive, but they are pretty durable. And they're meant to withstand all 4 seasons. So that's something to keep in mind. Other things that you can consider are maybe like a tarp tent or some kind of system involving a tarp. But that's your 4-season tent. Most people are going to get a 3-season tent. So these do provide reliable protection from rain, from bugs. They tend to be pretty easy and flexible for setting up. They come in single versus double wall. Single obviously is lighter. but those tend to have a little bit more condensation involved there, so just something to keep in mind with that. So the big thing here is knowing what size tent you want. They do have a one-person tent, which will just fit your body, basically. I do have one of those that I use occasionally, but I also have a two-person tent. It's about 4 pounds that I like to use for my longer trips, or if I am sharing a tent with somebody. It's nice to have the extra space if you're going to be out for several days. So those are options. So you want to keep in mind, um, how much space you're going to want, what you're going to be comfortable with, and then also the weight. So it's good to test a few things out for that. Also, you want to think about your setup too. So yeah, please. So you want to think about something that's going to be kind of easy. The two-person tent that I have is super easy to set up. It's just two poles across, boom, done. So I really enjoy that one, and I just bought that one on Amazon. All right, let me jump back here real quick to those sleeping pads. So they have many different styles, and the one that I have, I don't have it with me right now, but it's one that's inflatable, and how you inflate it is it's like a step pump, so you don't need to bring like an electronic pump. So you just push it and it pumps up that way. They do have pads that like fold up, and you can kind of strap them underneath or on top of your pack. So those are great too. So really, it's about testing out what you like. A lot of these tend to be on the lighter side for carrying. So I've seen some people bring yoga mats, but I feel like those could get pretty hefty if you're, comparing weights of the other things. And then another note about sleeping bags is there's different shapes. And there's also these quilts that will like snap on the sides, kind of like a sleeping bag. There are sleeping bag liners, so you can keep the bag itself dry. So there's a lot of different options there. So you want to make sure you do your research on kind of what you need and what you like. I have a mummy one like this, shown here. The zipper's actually broken right now, so I have to fix that, but I've had it forever. I really like those. It does keep me very warm. I tend to get pretty cold, even if it's just 50 degrees, I get pretty cold. So I really like that. Other things to consider is down versus synthetic fiber. I don't use down, again, for personal reasons, but I have synthetic fiber. Things with synthetic is it does kind of wear down over time. It can be kind of hard to dry out sometimes too, and down as well. So just you want to check out some different materials and really see what you like and what you prefer. Okay. Next, I wanted to talk about cookware. So if you're going to be out and you're probably going to be cooking something, or at least making coffee in the morning, so you want to have your stove, something to actually cook on, unless you're going to be doing fires the whole time. So you want to have something that's going to be kind of light, low maintenance, pretty easy and fast to set up. So there are great products out right now for backpacking. I do have some things that are larger, but I use those for, if I'm doing car camping. But I'll show you here in a second what I have for backpacking. I swear by it. I love it. So you want something for your stove. So there are things that are tiny and light. Something called the Pocket Rocket. There are a lot of different types that kind of fall in this category. Some are not very expensive at all. But then you have some other things, Jetboil, wind burner. There's other types of kind of canister stoves. So I have a Pocket Rocket, and here's the stove itself. You can see that in my camera. Very tiny, very lightweight. So I just open this up, and it looks like this. So what this does is this unfolds here, and these bend out so that I can put my mug on there. And then your canister for this, I have these little ones like that. So you just screw that on there. That's your stove. Very easy, very low maintenance, very lightweight. I usually bring two of these on a backpacking trip. I haven't used it as much to run out of two for sure. So that usually does pretty well for me. And then you can, you just adjust it, just the flame that way. So, what I do for anything that I'm cooking when I'm out is I have just one or two of these. I swear by these as well. So, little aluminum, and this I usually make oatmeal or something like that, or tea, and I will just boil my water right in here. This folds. It can be a bowl, it can be a mug, it could be whatever you want it to be. So this fits right on to here, and it's great. It just does its thing. It does what it's supposed to do. So that my whole cook system is just two of these, this little pocket rocket stove with the one or two canisters, and then I have one of these spoon spork things, which also has a little serrated knife on the edge of it. So this is my cooking system right here. So this saves a lot of space and a lot of time. You know, you don't have to clean a whole bunch of dishes when you're out. You just have the one. So also on the topic of cooking is food. So I know they have so many different cooking meal things now. So um, another option for what to eat out of is just to put your boiled water right in one of the packs, and you can just spoon it right out of there. So these are options. Sometimes these tend to have a lot of sodium. They don't tend to be the healthiest, but some of them don't taste great either. But test them out, see if you like it. A lot of times I don't eat, I pack them and I don't even eat them. But I do want to get into dehydrating making my own meals. So maybe I'll do an FLT Connect on that one day. But usually my go-to is the oatmeal and tea in the morning, and then I usually have just a bunch of snacks, really healthy snacks. So another thing I put on here to keep in mind for food is if you are in an area that has bears. I would say don't be afraid of bears, but they do like to get our food. And Kane did mention about the bear canisters and doing bear bags. So I just wanted to show you my bear canister that I have. So when I go backpacking, and especially in the Adirondacks, in the high peaks, it is required to have a sort of style of the bear canister. So here's my bear canister, and it is kind of a pain in the butt because this does take up a lot of space. I usually strap it on the bottom or on the top, however it works out. But this will fit food for a few days for two people in here. It's got a lid that has like these little locks on it, and you just use like a key or a coin or something to unlock it. So that'll keep it critter proof, really. So not just bears, but um, so I mean it is great just to have that peace of mind that nothing's going to get your food. But you could also put all of your cookware, anything that has a scent, really, toothpaste, deodorant. You could put that all right in there, and nothing should touch it. There are some places that do rent these. They can be pretty pricey to get yourself, but if you know you're going to be out a lot, it is worth it to invest in your own. I know we had the question before about REI renting. I went there and I saw that they sell them. I'm not sure if they do rent them there though. But they do have different styles. So wherever you're going, you do want to do the research on if they do require a certain type, because the Adirondacks, there is a bear there that does know how to go get into certain types. So they require a certain type there. So also just a little bit for cookware. Another thing that I do sometimes bring are these little collapsible bowls. I like to bring these for my dog who just walked in and trying to interrupt our Zoom here. So these are collapsible like cups or bowls. So they're really great to give you a little bit extra space. They don't take up a whole bunch. They don't weigh a lot. So they're a really cute thing to have. So a little safety on the topic of bears, a little funny thing for you. So you don't have to be faster than the bear, just faster than the person that you're with. No, but really, I haven't had any issues with bears. The bears around here tend to see you and get spooked and run away, before you even see it. So just be mindful. Don't intentionally feed it. And then I did put this link here, or if you want to just Google, the National Park Service does have great resources for bear safety. A lot of it does revolve around if you go out west where the bears are definitely more aggressive. But if you are concerned about bears at all, I just wanted to put that on there for you. Okay, well, let's talk about packs and because you're going to need something to put all of the stuff in. So there are different styles, or there are so many different looks to them, different types. So there are frameless packs and there are framed packs. So you really want to go to the store or wherever you're getting these from, and you want to try it on. A lot of stores will fit it for you. They do come in the different sizes, and they kind of base it on your torso. So I have a couple tips for sizing on there in the next slide or two. And you want to keep in mind the size of it too. Like if you're going to be out for several days, if you know you're only going to do like a one night, so there's different options for size. There's different fabric types. There's a whole bunch of different colors. So many options. I know that it could be pretty overwhelming, but just go and try some on, and see what feels good, and see what has the features that you want. A lot of times the things that have a lot of features and they look very like rugged and like a lot of straps and everything, those tend to have more weight to them, and they tend to be more pricey. So just keep that in mind. So the overall capacity, a lot of times if you are doing your 3-season backpacking trips for, a couple days, you're going to want a 50 to 60 liter backpack. So I will show you mine. See it. This one here is mine. So I just got one from EMS. It's the EMS brand. So this is 100 or so when I got it quite a few years ago. So there are a lot of pockets. So it's really good to kind of check everything out and know where all of your pockets are, what you're going to put where. And that really does come with practice too of, knowing what you're going to want more accessible. A lot of them have these little tiny pockets on the hip strap. So this is good for anything that you do want like pretty accessible. I like to have like little candies as I'm going. So I, just have those right in there. But yeah, anything like sunscreen, like any little salt can sanitizer, you could put like right in those ones. So there's a little spot for the hydration bladder if you choose to use one of those. So I really like this one. A lot of them have these flaps that kind of come and cover the top, so you have storage up there as well. So this does have a frame hidden under here, and at the store they can adjust this for you to make sure that it fits your torso. And mine here has like a breathable mesh. You're gonna be sweating a lot carrying all of this weight and trekking through the woods. So having something that's pretty breathable is a good option too. I usually keep like a little carabiner with some hair ties on it. Hair ties are like the female duct tape. I use them for like everything. So I usually keep one of those on there too. So just some considerations for winter. If you are going out in the winter, you're going to need extra gear. So keeping that in mind, having a larger pack and and keeping in mind the larger or the higher weight for that. If you're doing anything that involves any more strenuous climbing or anything else, multiple people, keep all of that stuff in mind too when you're considering a pack. And then will it fit a bear canister? You do want to keep that in mind too if you're going to be needing one of those. You want to figure out how to kind of strap that to your pack. So fitting this is kind of based on your torso length, and the waist belt should kind of buckle kind of across your navel. You want to make sure that it's kind of rests just above your pelvic bone. So a lot of your weight is going to be carried on your hips. You don't want to have all of that weight on your shoulders. It's not going to be great for your back. So that does kind of come with practice too, just making sure that you're going out, testing it out before you go on a full week trek. You want to just go on a long hike with it and see how it fits, and make sure that it feels good for you. Just a couple of other considerations for gear. Having a pack cover. A lot of them do come with pack covers now, so it's usually shoved in one of the pockets, but it just kind of slips over. So if it's going to rain, you just put it right over your pack, and it stays pretty dry. But you can use a garbage bag to be able to kind of put over it. And also, a lot of people put garbage bags inside of it and put other stuff inside of that just to keep everything inside dry. They do have pack liners they sell as well. You can use ponchos, things like that. There are dry sacks where you can put stuff in there, and you can kind of cinch up the top, usually clips, and that'll keep all of your stuff dry as well. I always have paracord in my pack with me, so that can be used for so many things. You can string up a clothesline. If you have a tarp that you're using instead of a tent, you can use the paracord to keep that up. They do have, I was just playing with it here. You might have seen the, sorry, my daughter is playing aggressively with the dog. They have these bracelets that are made out of paracord, and they have a little flint striker on the end of it, and some of them have a little, I was just playing with it. I don't know what, I dropped it. They have a little compass on it and stuff. So those are pretty cool little bracelets. So I usually like clip one of those on to my pack just to have, just in case. So it could come in handy. It could end up being a safety thing where it saves your life. You never know. So I always keep paracord with me. You could also use it if your shoelaces snap and you need to replace them. So really great to have. Trekking poles. So if you are backpacking and you're carrying a lot of weight, it is probably good to have trekking poles. That way that kind of helps you take a little bit of the weight off. And a lot of times when I'm just hiking, I don't like to use trekking poles to keep the weight off. I usually use them to kind of like get aggressive dogs away from me. But for backpacking, it probably is a good idea to have them. So a lot of times if I'm not using them as I'm walking, I'll just like strap them to the outside of my backpack. So some tips about kind of gearing up without breaking the bank. You can borrow gear. You can share gear with people if you want to split the cost of something, and then if you're not going together, then you can kind of take turns. There are a lot of places where you can rent gear. So I would recommend this for your first few backpacking trips. That way you can kind of get a feel for what you like, what you prefer before you make the big purchase of getting your own stuff. What I did for a lot of my gear is I built it up over time. So I kind of got the essentials that I needed, or kind of things that I knew like it would just be okay to start, and then I would build it up over time. Also, there are discount stores or gently used gear stores and websites. So those are really great to check out to get some secondhand stuff. You just want, check out the integrity of it, but those can be really good. There's the co-ops too, like REI, that have the member deals and things like that. You want to make sure that you consider those lower cost brands until that you're really into backpacking and you want to get the higher end stuff. So, and then you want to weigh the gear that you already have before buying any new gear. So take a look at what you already have. What can you use before you purchase something that is, brand spanking new. For anything that you buy, though, you want to check the return policy because it does, if it does end up not being a great fit for you, you want to make sure that you know what the return policy is before you purchase it. All right, just a couple of additional tips before we take some questions. A lot of times we overpack based on our fears. So people tend to pack way too much. So you really want to make sure that you're doing your homework to understand what you're actually going to need. So kind of stay within your safety margin, but don't let your fears kind of take over where you're packing way too much. And you want to kind of challenge yourself about what you really need to be comfortable. Like for the clothing, for example. You might stink, but that's okay. At least you don't have to carry an extra couple pounds of clothing. So just some other things to consider there. Okay, so we will take some questions, but I did want to mention that we are going to be having some really cool events this year. So we are planning some backpacking trips, actually, some guided backpacking trips. And we have two that are coming up in July and one that's going to be in August. So be on the lookout for the advertising for that. That should be coming out in the next couple months. So those are going to be guided backpacking treks. I'm leading a woman's only one, which is going to be doing the entire Onondaga Branch Trail. Kane is going to be leading one, and Tim Hollahan is also leading one. So look out for those. But we have some other great events too. Our traditional county hike series that advertisement is going to be coming out very, very soon. So you can sign up for that. And we have fall weekend that we're planning. We have yoga hikes that I'm going to be leading. We have a women's weekend retreat. So we have so many cool things. So I just wanted to put that little plug there for you to keep your eye out for those things. Okay. So now I'll open it up to any questions or any comments that you have. Melody is going to be the last week. Oh, are you talking? Hold on a second. Chat just went away here. The women's only backpacking, that is, I actually have the day. I think it's like July 25th, something like that. All right. Yes, Todd has antibiotics in case of a tick bite. Yes, that's very wise. Brianna, we don't do guided hikes for some of the Adirondack Mountains, but we are affiliated with a lot of the Adirondack Club chapters, which I know that they do. So you can definitely check out some of their hikes. Any other questions? All right. Well, I'll stick around for a couple minutes if anybody wants to chat some more. Hopefully you found this informative. I know gear can be pretty overwhelming. There's a lot of options. So feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions about gear, or you can find us on Facebook too. And I hope to see you all at some of these events. Oh, we have another question here. Yes, so this meeting is recorded. We hope to get that on our YouTube channel soon for you. And about the wrong canister, I'm not sure. They'll probably just tell you, hey, you got to get another one. Yeah, I've always just followed the rules, so I don't know. All right, so I'll stick around for a little bit if anybody has any other questions. Otherwise, thank you and have a good night.